Now Mike's going to close it up with labor issues.
Yeah,
Yes.
a minute or so.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the last piece of the puzzle now. Issues. As we've already mentioned, this is a brave new world. You're going to have silent factories with machines printing these things. You can set it at night. The morning you come back, you've got a specialized goods. How is it going to affect the workforce? Is it going to mean fewer workers? Is it going to mean different workers? It's probably going to mean both. We certainly know there's going to be less waste, and this is something we can be doing 24/7. How do you find the workers who can do this? Well, there's a huge demand. In the last year, the demand for people with knowledge of 3D printing has grown 100%. Over the last 4 years, it's grown 1,800%. Where do you find these people? You find them coming out of good engineering schools, IIT here, University of Illinois, Purdue, Rose-Hulman, all around. You find them from recent grads. There are government-funded training programs that exist now. You can find them coming out of those, find them coming from overseas. How is this going to impact the current labor forces? Well, we can kind of look at historical lessons. We can look at agriculture. In 1900, 40% of the American workforce was working in agriculture. Now it's about 2%. In manufacturing, we hit our peak in 1979, and it's down 50% in terms of employees who are working in manufacturing now from 1979. Just in the last, basically since the Great Recession, we're down about 8 or 10%. Why is this happening? It's happening because of computers, robotics, automation in general, and we're just getting better at doing things. We're getting better at manufacturing. We're getting better at agriculture. So what does this mean? It means perhaps significant manufacturing job losses, but not necessarily, and I'll talk about that in just a second. With a 3D printer and robotics, you can use what used to take 10 people to do, now might take 1. But it might create whole new jobs, not necessarily the the basic new guy or new girl to the manufacturing floor, but it's certainly going to require new engineers, new programmers, high-skilled technicians and machinists. You're going to see a transformation of some of your machinists from being low-skilled to high-skilled. Instead of wearing a blue shirt, they're going to be wearing a white shirt. You're going to have inventory managers. The fact of the matter is there are whole new industries that we don't even know about, that don't exist yet, but will in 5 or 10 or 15 years. The next Google or Apple or Microsoft is out there, and this is going to cause it. Now, one of the good things about 3D printing is we now know that we can make things faster and cheaper and with less waste, so we're starting to see a lot more onshoring and insourcing. We're seeing it, there's talk that it could profoundly affect China. China is going to end up losing jobs, and we're going to gain jobs. Lots of US companies are already saying that they are onshoring and insourcing products that they used to not, because they realize they can make them here now, in some cases with the new technology, better, cheaper, and faster. And they recognize that there's a certain loss of R&D and intellectual property if somebody else's factory somewhere else is making it instead of you. Your factory is, in essence, your lab. That's where you explore. That's where you learn new ways to make things. Companies like GE and Caterpillar and Ford, Whirlpool, and Dow have all said they are now insourcing because of the opportunities that 3D printing presents. Finally, the very last piece of the puzzle, and the last slide, is union issues. If you are a unionized employer, you are going to have to take a very close look at your collective bargaining agreement to see if that CBA addresses bringing in new technologies and how that could affect your workforce. If it means reductions in the workforce, it means changes. If you want to make sure that you have a very robust management rights clause that allows you to bring these things in, allows you to have new equipment terms so you can use these new things without facing a union fight. You want to be able to control the processes and control the staffing. You want to be able to decide how it works in terms of seniority, who has to get laid off, if the people who are getting laid off are the people you actually want to keep because they have the right future-going skills. Are you de-skilling people? Are you taking people who were previously considered engineers and now really calling them machinists? That could be an issue under a collective bargaining agreement. There are also going to be health and safety issues. If you're working with new materials and new technologies, you're going to have to be aware of that. The bottom line is, with all of this stuff that we've talked about today, with the IP issues, with the starting up of new business ventures, with litigation, with insurance, with some of the federal and state regulatory issues. These are all things that you want to think about ahead of time, not after the fact, because you want to make sure that you're doing this right. It's going to be a growing industry. It's going to create some opportunities we don't even know about. But you want to think long and hard before you go into that. We're obviously here to help. There are so many resources out there in this burgeoning industry. It's really exciting stuff. Who knows how it's going to change things, but it'll be very interesting to see over the next 5 or 10 or 20 years. Thank you very much. We're happy to stick around. I know we've taken up a lot of your time, but we're happy to stick around and answer any questions that you've got.
Take a bagel with you.
Yes, there's plenty of food. So thanks again.